I can't thank you enough for having me here today to be able to talk about Babcock Ranch and what we're doing. We are the most sustainable and the most resilient new city that's being built in the United States, and we're very, very proud of that. And I've been going to conferences for many years where people love to talk about how do we do this right? How do we create a sustainable town? How do we combat all the issues of climate change and all the things that are going on? But we felt it was important to actually do something. So rather than talk about it, we are very proud of the fact that we have moved forward and are creating and building this new town that we're very, very proud of. Just to give a quick perspective, Babcock Ranch is located in Southwest Florida. I don't know how many of you have been in Florida, but it's a beautiful state. We're about 15 miles from Fort Myers, and we're about 20 miles inland off of the Charlotte Harbor estuary. As Lily was talking about, we purchased the 91,000 acre ranch. This is back in 2006, and that is an area 5 times the size of the island of Manhattan. It's massive, 143 square miles. And then we sold 73,000 acres back to the state of Florida, and it was the largest land purchase in the history of the state. And then we ended up with 18,000 acres. And out of the 18,000 acres, we're preserving half of that. So at the end of the day, 90% of this original ranch is in preservation forever. And I think that's one of the things that we're most proud of, is responsible growth, making sure that we're preserving those areas that are important. Florida is known for its natural resources, for its great habitats, for its water. And in order to preserve that, in order to continue that, we need to preserve as much of that as possible. And those are the things that I think that we're doing at Babcock Ranch. So how do we do this? Well, back in 2005, we put together these 7 key initiatives that would become sort of the bedrock of who we are and what we're about. We focused on the environment. We wanted to prove that a new city and the environment could work hand in hand, and we've done that. Energy was a key. We're the first solar power town. Education, we have a great K through 12 school. I'll show you that in just a few minutes. We focused on health and wellness and transportation. Technology, we have a gigabit to every home and every business. And maybe most importantly of all, storm safety. With what's going on in the world today, having a resilient community is as important as anything we could possibly do. And that's what we set off first thing early on in the life of Babcock Ranch. I think we can all agree out there that these storms are more frequent, they're more violent, and we need to do something about that. When we built Babcock Ranch, we wanted to be above the storm surge. So Babcock Ranch is actually 30 feet above sea level, and we did that very purposefully. We wanted to make sure that during a hurricane, during an event, that we be above that storm surge. And to make all this work also, we wanted to make sure we had hardened infrastructure, that we had a state-of-the-art water management system. So this resiliency and all these things that we've been working on, planning on for years and years and years, finally, when Babcock Ranch opened back in 2018, here 5 years later, we didn't realize this, but we were going to be tested, the ultimate test. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with what happened here in the United States, but Hurricane Ian slammed into Southwest Florida. And what happened to us was that Babcock Ranch was the eastern eye wall, came right over the top of Babcock Ranch. We had sustained winds of over 100 miles per hour and gusts of over 150 miles an hour. I remember sitting in my home. I live at Babcock Ranch, and the winds blowing through and coming through, it just felt like a freight train running through the house, and it sat on us for 8 hours. And we've done all that planning I was talking about, just preparing for it, but you really don't know until you're actually tested. And we were tested to the max. And the next morning, what we found was that we had minimal damage. We never lost power. We never lost internet. And our water system, the potable water to our homes never went down. So all the work, everything that we had done paid off in a very, very big way. So how do we do that? Well, I think, one of the things we did was we wanted to find where those natural flowways were at Babcock Ranch before we started building anything. One thing we've learned is you cannot go against Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is going to win every single time. So we found this is a map of Babcock Ranch back from the 1940s. And we found where those natural flowways were within the community, and we stayed out of them. We didn't build in any of them. And we have wetlands that are throughout the community. We didn't build on those either. We stayed around them. And not only do they retain and hold a significant amount of water, but they're beautiful. And people who live here at Babcock Ranch love the fact that we've kept these beautiful wetlands open for people to see and to hike through, but also where they know it keeps them safe. So we then came up with our plan. And you can see here that those natural flowways in between all of those the development areas, and those, just so you know, this is literally 18,000 acres. It's a massive community. In fact, we're going to have over 20,000 homes and 6 million square feet of commercial space. There'll be over 55,000 people living at Babcock Ranch. So I think when you look at what we've done and how we've done it, a lot of people ask me, well, does it make sense financially? Does it work? Well, this past year, we were the 5th ranked master plan community in the United States. And we did that in just 5 years. So we're one of the fastest selling new towns, new cities in the entire United States of America. Just to give you a sense as to what those flowways look like, here's one. This is a great a picture of what this flowway looks like. And you can see not only is it does retain water during a storm event, but we have these beautiful trails that flow through that work through these natural areas, and people absolutely love it. You really are able to experience nature right outside your door. So everybody has the ability to walk outside their front door and literally within minutes be in one of these great trails or wetland areas. But not only did we preserve wetlands, but we also created wetlands and mitigated areas that had been destroyed from farming over the years, where they drain the lands. And here's a great example of that. If you look in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, that's what this land looked like before we got involved. This used to be a beautiful wetland. So we put in a weir system, and in the lower right, you can see how beautiful that it is now, home to countless number of birds and other species, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And the one thing that is really exciting for all of you to know is how quickly nature heals itself. You look at that up in the upper left-hand corner, it's just fallow, it's dry. And you look in the lower right, and it's just teeming with life. And this just happened over a 2-year period. That's how quickly Mother Nature can heal itself. And it just gives you a lot of hope when you think about what we can do when we do it the right way. We also, and when I talk about creating these wetlands, we also built rain gardens throughout Babcock Ranch. And what these rain gardens do, if you look, is they retain water. The water runs off into these large areas, and then it slowly drains into the wetland areas. But what it does as it's draining through there is it purifies itself. It cleans the water. So water that comes onto Babcock Ranch is actually cleaner when it leaves Babcock Ranch. And that's something we're also very proud of. The other thing we require is that all of our builders and everyone has to use native plant materials at Babcock Ranch. Well, why? Why do we do that? Well, because they're really great in the dry season, and they do really well in the wet season, and they do really well in windy conditions. So it just makes sense to use the natural palette of landscaping that is indigenous to Florida. And it has been very successful, because during the storm, we had very little damage to any of our landscaping. And again, 150-mile-an-hour winds. The other important part of what we did at Babcock Ranch, particularly to handle these large rain events that we're seeing, it just seems like every time you turn around, it's a 100-year storm event, a 500-year storm event. And so we wanted to prepare for that. So we have an extensive lake system throughout Babcock Ranch. And in fact, it's not only the lake system, but we built in a smart water management system. So what happens is these lakes are controlled by a computer system that can predict what the weather is going to be like 7 years in advance. And if a large rain event is going to come over Babcock Ranch, it can lower the lake levels. So not only do we have our natural flowways that take on the water, but these lakes can take on the water, and they can predict what those storm events are going to be. It's incredibly efficient, and it's something that has been very successful for us. And we've had 15, 20 inches of rain and have had no problems with our roads or any of our homes. And in fact, we even had more capacity that was available to them. This is a great view of kind of this is a first phase. We have Babcock Ranch is massive. And you can see here all the lakes that we have. You can see the natural wetland areas throughout the community. And as I said before, people really, really enjoy being a part of nature, and at the same time, keeping everybody safe. You know, I talked earlier about health and wellness. You know, you talk about, you know, a better city and better lives. Well, health and wellness is key to that. And what we've done at Babcock Ranch is really made it easy for people to be outside, to be a part of nature. What our goal is to get the particularly young people out from their computer screens and virtual reality and get into the real world, because it's beautiful. And we want to encourage it, make it easy for them to go outside and to be a part of this great world that we have. We want kids to be out fishing and riding their bikes and interacting with each other. And so health and wellness was a key part of that. So what we do have at Babcock is well over 50 miles of trails. And those trails are not only weave in and out of our preservation areas, but we have trails that weave along our road system, and we make them wide and easy and comfortable for people to enjoy. I think also, you know, the design of these communities is so critical to do it right from the beginning. If you look here, you know, our roads are extra wide. We have bike lanes. We have areas for people to walk. So you can hike, bike, walk, be whatever you want to do, you can do at Babcock Ranch and feel safe as you're walking along the community. It's important to do those things up front, because if you do it up front, it's not as expensive if you have to go back and try and retrofit these things. Here's a great look at one of our main roads that works through Babcock Ranch. You know, one of the things that we probably stole from Europe. It's all the great roundabouts, and instead of having a multitude of lights that we have here in the United States, and we have lights all over the place, it takes a very long time to go from point A to point B because you're always stopping at a light. So Babcock Ranch features roundabouts all throughout the community, and it just keeps the traffic moving, keeps it slow, and it has been very successful for us. But again, extra wide roads, areas for bicycles, and areas for people to be able to hike and walk around. Placemaking is very, very important to us. This is our Founders Square, just one of many of our little downtown areas. And just as an example, what we have here, and yes, those are solar panels on top of the buildings. But every Friday night, for example, we have a band that plays here. We have what we call Food Truck Fridays, and we'll get 2,000 or 3,000 people. And it's wonderful to see all the young people and all the grandparents and just everybody congregating together, neighbors meeting neighbors, and really what that's what this is all about. In fact, at Babcock Ranch, we have a full stratification of pricing and products, and you could buy a condo, you can buy a townhouse, you can buy a single family home at all price ranges. So we want it to be as diverse as possible. And I think we've been very successful in doing that. And one of the ways that you create that diversity is to have a great school. We have a project-based learning school at Babcock Ranch. It's K through 12. And the reason why I think this is so important is you need to teach these kids at a young age. You can't wait till later in life. You gotta get them early and teach them what we're doing and how we're doing it, what sustainability means. So it's a project-based learning school where the students actually participate and become part of what we're doing. And they learn, and you know, when you're actually doing things, the retention and the way that way these kids learn to read and write and all the STEM, whether it be science, technology, engineering, math, the results have been fantastic. But this is part of what makes a great city, great schools, and it also keeps it multi-generational. Well, you have young families and those empty nesters. To kind of tie that together, we have what we think is a great technology system at Babcock Ranch. We have fiber to every home and business. That's a gigabit to every home and business. And because of that, what we found is a lot of people are moving to Babcock Ranch to work there. They're working from home. It's just kind of, you know, after the pandemic, a lot of people just never went back to work. But if they have the ability to work at home because they've got the right bandwidth, they have the technology to be able to do that, it encourages them to do that. So here at Babcock Ranch, again, every home has internet that is a full gigabit, which we're again very, very proud of. We're known for and still are known for being the first solar powered city in the United States. And we're very proud of this. We work very closely with Florida Power and Light, and they put in a 150 megawatt solar power generating facility. And what we're so proud of here is that it's literally 700,000 panels on about 840 acres. And during the storm, when Hurricane Ian set over the top of us, we never lost power. We never lost internet, and the water kept flowing because we own the utility at Babcock Ranch. But having this hardened infrastructure into Babcock Ranch is why we didn't lose. We're the only place in Southwest Florida that didn't lose electricity. And this solar power plant has been absolutely fantastic. So, you know, we're very proud of that. But one of the things that we also did that Florida Power and Light we were the first town or first place in the United States to have a solar to battery facility. And this is actually 10 megawatts. Of course, now they're much more common, but we actually were the pioneers. We love innovation at Babcock Ranch, and we encourage innovation. And we hope that actually Florida Power and Light will put in more. But it started out here with 10 megawatts, and they used it to learn. And since then have expanded beyond that. And in fact, we encourage people to come out and take a look at this incredible site, seeing all these solar panels and what they can do and how it's clean energy, how it works with the environment. And we had this observation tower, and people are actually able to come over and enjoy. One of the other things that we do is we built a storm shelter at Babcock Ranch. Now, the people actually living at Babcock Ranch can shelter at home. As I explained before, during this hurricane, they didn't lose power, never lost internet, didn't lose their water service. But this shelter is for people who actually live on the coast of Florida, and if there's an evacuation. It handles a Category 5 hurricane, and it's got a full generator system in place. So during Hurricane Ian, people were in fact came and stayed at this shelter, and it was very, very successful. And people were very happy. There was a lot of gratitude for the fact that they were able to stay in a place and be safe. One of the ways that we did all this, as I said before, is that we own our utility plant. So we own the sewer and the water plant. You can see on the left side of the screen the plant under construction a number of years ago. It is built and it is hardened to handle a Category 5 hurricane. So we're able to withstand these high winds, and we're above the storm surge, and it's above any kind of flooding, so that during these events, people are going to continue to have those services. And I think one of the keys was having a hardened grid system into Babcock Ranch. So Florida Power and Light puts these large metal stanchions that you see here carrying the power to Babcock Ranch, and then everything in Babcock is underground. All the utilities are underground and can handle these storm events. I talked about innovation. We actually built a neighborhood of homes that have new technologies that haven't been used before. These homes are actually not occupied. And we're right now measuring the results of these new technologies and ideas. 3 of the largest home builders that we have in the United States came together and really did a great job of putting some really cool techniques, building techniques and technologies into the homes themselves, whether it be construction techniques that are new. And here's one that many of you may have heard of, the Ford F-150. The electrically powered Ford F-150 also acts as a backup generator. So this home was actually fitted for that. And you can see that during a storm, they actually test run this. They plugged it in and it powered the Ford F-150, acting as a backup generator, powered the home for 3 days. This technology is really, really interesting and could be a great game changer for us as we go forward. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we have a whole variety of homes at Babcock Ranch. But one thing we do is we have great building codes here in Florida. And we actually go above and beyond, but whether it be the rebar into the blocks or the hurricane straps to keep our roofs steady, but the actual construction is really done well. And then we try and go above and beyond with our roof systems, with our fortified technology, and we have adhesives under many of these eaves, and the wind resistance and the things that it can accomplish, whether it be the garage doors or the attics or however we do it, it just makes these homes stronger and able to handle these extreme weather events. And during Hurricane Ian, as I said before, we had very little damage to any of the homes and any of the buildings at Babcock Ranch. I'd like to end with just a 30-second video that hopefully gives you a sense of what Babcock Ranch is like.
There is a town with limitless possibilities, where neighborhoods are built to last, and bonds are even stronger. It's yesterday's values and tomorrow's technology, all here today. Powered by the sun and energized by true community, let life shine at Babcock Ranch.
I really want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about Babcock Ranch. As you can imagine, it's a new city, and there's so many elements that I could literally spend hours and hours talking to you about. But I really appreciate this time to talk about Babcock and give you a sense of what we're doing here in the United States to create the most sustainable and resilient new town in America. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.